This picture that you are looking at right here is of a vintage doll, slightly horrifying, but I suppose she also does have a certain charm, only the kind of charm that a begging little girl in a burlap dress with messed up hair can have. She's also got big eyes, which is the first thing I noticed when I saw her at the yard sale. So I found her and one other doll. They were identical except for the fact that one of them had the burlap dress and the other one was dressed in not an original dress. And I sold this doll for $150. I'll talk more about this doll later, but I do want to say this was not my best sale of the week. Hey everybody, it's Shannon. I am back with another What Sold video. My husband and I are part-time resellers, and that means we find items at thrift stores and yard sales, garage sales, estate sales, and then we turn around and go ahead and we try to sell them online for a profit. I say we're part-time resellers because as of right now, we do have another source of income. We don't rely on reselling completely, although it is a major part of our income. And it's looking to become an even greater part in the near future. So I just wanted to introduce myself if this was the first time you were here. Otherwise, we were just going to get right on to my top sales. Well, actually, I'm sharing all my sales for the week, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And these are sales that happen in our online shops from September 4th through the 10th. And like the thumbnail showed, some potential top sales of the week, and we will try to narrow it down into which was our top sale for the week. Let's go ahead and start on eBay. First of all, before I even start, I do want to give a thank you to Constance, who found the link down in the description below, and she bought me a coffee. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you, Constance, for supporting the channel, and I'm glad the information has been helpful, and hopefully you do start selling those sewing patterns very quickly. Anyway, okay, so our first sale for the week of, what are we on? September 4th through 10th is this coffee mug. It was from the Tokyo Disney Resort. I'll show you the bottom real quick. Now, I had a feeling this would be fairly sought after. It had an Alice in Wonderland theme. It was really hard to find any kind of comps for it, and it actually took a little while to sell as well. It sold for $30. It went overseas. So anyway, you can look at it again. It said Alice in Wonderland on the back side, and it kind of had the stacked teacup, tilted kind of funny thing. So I don't know that I have a ton of coffee mugs listed at the moment, but this is the time of year where I find that coffee mugs start to pick up a little bit in sales. So if you've seen my coffee mug video and you've started sourcing, now is the time to get those listed. Okay, next up is a brand called Lafayette 148. And let me pop on the label. Now, I've heard some other resellers talk about the fact that this brand is kind of hit or miss. And this is my very first time selling this brand. I have a few in my inventory that I need to get listed. This was one of the first pieces that I was experimenting with. So I was very pleased. It was a linen. That helped too. It was linen. It had embroidery. It had beading. It was just a size 4, but it sold for that full asking price of $40. Then, so I think it really does depend on the piece, and we'll see how that goes. I have a skirt. I have some pants, I think. So I'm just going to play around with the brand, and you can, stay tuned in my What Sold to see how that continues to do. Next up is a dress, a very fun dress by Lauren Ralph Lauren, and it was like a jersey knit. The print on it was like concho, like a concho belt, so very Western looking. And I don't normally do flat lays on the ground with my pictures, but I really wanted to show that this dress was like a fit and flare style. And as you can see, when I hang it on the hanger, it doesn't quite give that right effect for people. So that one sold for the full asking price of $50 as well. The buyer did ask me ahead of time to double check condition and everything, and then went ahead and purchased. Then I am going to share this sale, even though I had to refund it. I had 2 of these, and I had sold one a couple months ago. It was totally fine. And then I sold this one, and she opened it and said it was no good. So I guess, you know, that's a risk of, you know, things that are discontinued or whatever. You don't know exactly how they've been stored. Now the one was fine, or at least I never heard back from the buyer. So, but this one was not, but I don't want it back because it would be opened at that point. So I just went ahead and refunded and moved on with my life. Next up, another brand that I wouldn't necessarily recommend to anybody, but it's here and it's sold. And so this probably does have more to do with the fact that it's linen. You know, Daniel Crimea, it's just not a, it does sell. We've had certain pieces sell, and actually sometimes fairly quickly, but not for high prices, if that makes sense. So if you got this like at the bins or, you know, somewhere fairly cheap, I had picked it up kind of as a joke. I had 2 of these. And you might remember I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the other one sold. So we had them, my husband had listed them together, but I decided to separate them because I didn't think anyone would want 2 of the same color. And that's what worked. So once I separated them, then we sold them each. I think we took $15 offers each time, and that sold. So they have moved on. Next up is a baseball cap. Oh, I do need to update you on my auction of my baseball cap. It didn't sell. I was so excited about that sale, but what are you going to do? I will list it again at a full price probably. I don't think I'm going to run an auction again. I did get some watchers and everything, but I didn't get any bids. So either it was the condition or it was, you know, the autograph. So it might just need to wait for the right buyer. So I'll probably just throw it up on eBay for a buy it now and just wait for that right buyer to come along. Anyway, vintage, this one. Now, if you saw my baseball cap video, and there's a few things that we talked about in the research video that, you know, is even missing in my own listing because we listed this before we did the research video. You could use big logo for this. You could use spell out. It ended up not mattering. You know, my husband did this listing. I do generally look over his listings, but not always. So, and not that he watches my videos. So he doesn't always have the same research and knowledge in his head as I do. So that's why sometimes I do double check his videos or his listings to just see if I can throw some keywords in there, or I adjust pricing as well. Anyway, it sold for $40, which I think is a wonderful price for a vintage hat and for a baseball cap in general. That, like I said, we don't usually spend any more than $2 for. It's rare that we spend more than that. A lot of times our hats are just pennies because we get them at our little clearance center. This next item is just one of those crazy things that I just love picking up randomness at the thrift store. It just makes reselling so much more fun. This is called a car shield. Now, if you look at like the picture of the grill of someone's car, and this is like shields that you could put up there. And as you can see, they could represent different things, countries or brands, or one of them was like the, you know, Freemasons, things like that. This one, the 2 I picked up were countries or general like areas. One was Mexico, which is this one, and it sold fairly quickly for $28.99. I paid $2. The other one, I think, is the Bahamas, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And anyway, I just thought, you know, somebody's going to want this. It was vintage. I can't remember if it had a year or what. I don't remember. But anyway, just not something that you see every day, and that's what makes reselling fun. Now this impresses me. We found this hat at the bins as well, and this is Old Navy. $35. $35 for an Old Navy hat, which I just think that's great. So I know a lot of it has to do with style, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And it also, you know, condition. This hat was in really good condition. So I know that added to its value. It had a really cool look to it. But still, $35 for an Old Navy hat, that does surprise me. And then we have something that sold for not $400, but it sold for $285.91. And it's a random price like that because we were negotiating back and forth, and they finally, I think, ended up with a price that combined with their shipping would be like an even $300. So $285.91, and this was not our top sale of the week. Almost got you there. So it was up there pretty good, $285. This was something that we just had. We didn't thrift this to resell. It was, you know, I've said in the past few weeks, my husband's kind of trying to clear out our garage and get rid of things that we've just been carrying around for a while or have had for a while, and that was one of them. And then the next one is a pair of boots, Sorel boots. We picked these up really recently. My husband and I had a chance to just go thrifting for an hour or so by ourselves, and we went, it was half price day. These, I believe, were about $10, and we sold them for $50 within a couple days. So it's definitely getting to be that time of year. People are starting to think ahead to winter, and they're trying to outfit themselves. So $50, from $10 to $50 within a day or so. Another piece that my husband has had banging around for a while, I don't remember. I keep forgetting to ask him where he got this, if he bought it to resell or if it just somehow ended up in our stuff. I don't know. It's a ruler, like a stainless steel or a metal ruler, but it's for model, it's got model railroad scale. So anything, lots of things having to do with model railroad can be worth checking and looking up. And that sold pretty quickly for $30. Next up is a vintage necktie. So this necktie is from the 30s. I know I have promised a necktie video, and that will be coming still. I promise you that. This one, you know, there's different ways to date to figure out the age of a necktie, and we'll go into that in the video. But this one sold for $30. I've said this before. I've been very pleased with how well and quickly some of my vintage neckties have been selling on eBay. I don't, you know, I always thought they'd have to be on Etsy or Ruby Lane or something like that. And yeah, possibly they might have sold faster or for higher prices on those other sites, but these sold really quickly for a decent profit margin that I am totally happy with. And I will say it's been mostly my 30s and 40s, some 50s ties that I've even been playing around with. So those are going to be sought after probably no matter what platform you put them on. Next up is dun, 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 a flannel shirt that sold for not $350, but it did sell for $300. And this is our top sale of the week. So, a flannel shirt for $300, you say? Okay, so we need to find out why. If we look at the tag, we can see the brand is Arrow. Now, Arrow was around for a long time, and I'm pretty sure they're still making shirts today. That was the model, or the style was called Chevella, designed in Switzerland, made in the USA. Now, if you remember this shirt, I got really excited. I found it on National Thrift Shop Day, and in that haul video, I was showing them to my husband, and I forced him to look up comps right there in the video, because I was like, these are selling for like hundreds. Like, I don't know why, and I can't believe I saw this and looked it up. And, you know, I think I would have gotten it anyway, because I love anything with a vintage label. And it was in good condition. It's 100% rayon. And this is called, the plaid is called a shadow plaid. You also can tell that it's from, besides the label, you can tell it's from the 50s or 60s, because this loop collar is a very kind of popular feature from that era. So my buyer is a collector. I think the look goes very good with the whole rockabilly look and style. And he said he had 2 other Arrow Chevella shirts, and this would be his 3rd. Okay, so that was our top sale of the week, but we are going to look at some of the other things that have sold. You know, we had some fairly decent sales elsewhere as well. So this, another baseball cap sold for $25, full asking price again. This was an international sale, but I think it went to Canada and Alaska. So I think we've mentioned in our, it wasn't the research video for baseball hats, but the one my husband and I did together. And we talked about different themes that maybe we just go ahead and pick up that have done well for us. And that one of them was anything Alaska themed. Seemed to at least eventually sell for us. So that sold for $25. Next up, we have the, well, I don't know, maybe a little more than slightly frightening doll. It is by Hasbro, Little Miss No Name. Like I said, it sold for $150. Now, I did have this original burlap dress, which was a plus, but I did not have, she's supposed to have like her original underwear. She had come with underwear, and some versions of the doll have a tier. And when I talked about this before in my live that I did, and I was sharing this in the show and tell kind of part, I don't think the tier is missing. I think it's just a version that didn't have it. But the ones with the tier that's attached here actually do sell better. But I mean, maybe it's possible there was a tier, it just like came off. It, you know, it didn't look like there was any damage or any issue right there. So I just put it in my title that I had the original dress, but there was no tier. It was a big-eyed doll. All very sought after. So $150 for that. And I bought 2 of them. Like I said, they were $6 for both of them. And pretty good return on investment. The second one did not have the original dress, but is still worth something. And then we go to the other end of the spectrum, to the Sanrio Hello Kitty stationery set. It was missing the stickers. I took an offer for $10. I had bought a whole big, like, well, not a huge lot, but several pieces of vintage Hello Kitty Sanrio type little stationery sets and notebooks and things like that at Goodwill one time, and I probably would have been better off just putting them all together. I thought I would make more money splitting them up, but they've been selling super slowly, and people, I think, who want to buy them are not wanting to spend a whole lot on them. And so I probably, like I said, would have done better just kind of keeping them together. So we'll see about that. Not the greatest decision on my part. This, don't even ask me. I don't know. It's a car charger or something. Whatever it works with or for. It's not completely sought after. So same thing. We took a $10 offer. I remember when my husband got these, he got 2 of them, and I don't remember when he picked them up at the thrift store if he, I don't know, maybe his searching wasn't coming up with the right thing or something, but they really weren't worth picking up. Then we sold this pair of gaiters, trail gaiters that you kind of, for hiking, kind of put around your the ankles of your pants to keep them dry. And yes, I just noticed we have the name, we have gaiter and gaiters. I don't think that's necessary, but it happens. $25 for those. And we got good feedback on that. And then we also sold this vest. It was, I'll show you the label. This is a good brand to keep an eye out for. WAH, W-A-H, maker, made in the USA, frontier clothing. So this was a very Western style, kind of, I use the word waistcoat. So it's a vest, but just kind of a, the company does clothing, you know, for very period type pieces. And so I looked this up at the thrift store. I sold it for $35, and I was happy that that sold very quickly. I paid about $3 for that. And then the next one, the last one on eBay for that week, Vintage Land's End. This is a sport coat or a blazer jacket, but it was corduroy, and it was a nice olive green, size 44 long, and it sold for $50. Okay, so let's move over to Posh. Starting off with a small sale, just probably another one of our bins hats that we just grabbed, and it turned out to be Wisconsin Badgers. I don't know, but it's a woman's hat, which when they're marketed or they're specifically designed for women, I don't know, those hats don't seem to sell as well. Unisex just does better. And so somebody wanted the Wisconsin Badgers baseball cap. It was an Under Armour hat, which might have been why we picked it up, but it sold for $10. And then here was another nice sale of the week, but again, not our top sale, but Dan Post. They were cowboy boots, kind of a smaller size, but had ostrich leather, which is a nice selling point for cowboy boots, and those sold on Posh for $125. And then another awesome vintage hat, corduroy. We mentioned in the research video, vintage corduroy trucker hats can do well. Now, what's interesting with this one, besides the fact that it has the rope trim, it had no brand. Like, it was not advertising anything that I know of. It just was kind of a hunting, you know, outdoor theme with this flying mallard duck. And then more Western style pieces sold. This was a leather Sherpa vest, just made in Mexico. It was hand tooled, and we sold that for $50. It was vintage, and this was given to us at kind of like a yard sale leftover type deal. This was a cardigan. The brand was not important, but I had picked it up because it was alpaca, and I thought the coloring would be really nice and everything. But what I find interesting is that, I don't know, maybe it used to be better, but I always thought things made from alpaca would sell really well. and I have not done that great with it. And there might be certain brands that, you know, could do well. I should do a little bit of research on that, but I got an $18 offer on this and I took it. And Peter Millar wouldn't be a normal reselling video, what sold video without a Peter Millar piece. Sold for $22, just a basic button-down shirt. And more Western. So I have been slowly embracing the living in Montana and going ahead and sourcing and researching a little bit more on vintage Western clothing and what will sell. Obviously, with the different TV shows like Yellowstone in 1923 or whatever it's called, there is an interest in that in the Western look. But I found vintage Wrangler shirts, especially in good colors, very 90s looking, pastels, things like that, will sell pretty well. So this one sold for $30, which to me is kind of on the higher end of what a vintage kind of basic Wrangler shirt will sell for. Let's move over to Etsy. I did have a few sales in the what do you call it? The Flatware shop. I've got some plans for the Flatware shop, but I'll talk about that another time. This pie server sold for $15. This, I guess I should talk about it a little bit more. Anyway, the brand is MSI. I'm sorry, my brain just kind of was thinking about something else. Brand is MSI. The pattern is Danica. It's a vintage brand made in Japan. I usually pick up Danica anytime I see it, and it usually sells. Then this, not big money, $6, but this is made in Denmark. It's a bottle opener, and I had sold it before, a red one, and so I just went ahead and grabbed it and sold it again for $6. Not worth a ton. And then the last one in the Flatware shop was another nice sale for just a single piece of flatware, which was a slotted spoon. But it was by Oneida. The pattern was called Anthem, and it sold for $15. This is in my husband's Etsy shop, Metal and Tweed, and this actually was from a couple weeks ago, but I forgot to share it. And I just thought it was worth sharing because I wanted you to keep an eye out for the vintage Dymo label makers. We do get better prices for these on Etsy than on eBay. But anyway, this one was like the chrome model. We can get higher prices for those. And if you can find it in its like original case and carrying case, that's big money as well. This sold in my husband's shop too. This was kind of one of those, like, he bought it kind of on impulse at an estate sale. Right as we were about to check out, he's like, oh, that's so cool. But then we looked it up and they weren't selling for much. It was Royal Wilton or Wilton Pewter, and I guess there were several on eBay not selling for great prices. But he went ahead and put it on Etsy and it sold for $16. Then we had this candlestick holder, which I think is wonderful looking. It's like a hammered brass, and my husband doubted me. Mace doubted me. He's like, what in the world? He's like, how am I supposed to sell this? Who's going to want this? And I'm like, but it's awesome. And I probably would have priced it higher, but it probably would still be sitting. He priced it at $14 for just, it's a single kind of random candle holder. And so it sold quickly, and the person left a message saying, thank you so much for offering it. So see, I am vindicated. Another sewing pattern sold. This one sold for $10. This is kind of a companion sewing pattern for the Country Rabbits sewing pattern I've sold before and showed you before that sells for $30. And these are just like clothing to go with it, but it sold for $10. And then this cracks me up. I love this 90s pattern by McCall's. It just screaming 90s to me, but it sold for $20. And you know, who does not want a silk bomber jacket with a matching baseball cap these days? So of course this sold. And I'm thrilled. And then lastly, on Ruby Lane, I sold this earring holder. I've sold several of this style vintage earring holder in different shapes, mushrooms, flowers, all sorts of things. I had tried to sell this horse one in the Western sale that I did on Facebook, and it didn't sell. So while it was out, I threw it over on Ruby Lane, and it sold for $12 like within a day. Anyway, I am so sorry for the delay in getting this video out to you. I had technical difficulties last week and just crazy stuff going on in life. We're doing a new homeschool program, and it has a learning curve for me as well. And I was telling someone that I only have so much real estate in my brain. And between homeschooling and the volunteer work and listing, which I didn't do as much of that as I wanted to, and housework. And then we went away for this past weekend, just getting back, like, you know, today's Monday. I'm just getting back home like an hour ago. So hopefully my computer is going to cooperate with me and you are seeing this Tuesday morning. And thank you so much for joining. As always, go ahead and leave a comment down below about your best sale, how things went this past week. Are things picking up as we're getting into fourth quarter? So I love to hear about it, so let me know. And I will hopefully, most likely, see you later on this week.